So we wanted to talk a little bit about your athleticism, being an athlete, your experience with being diagnosed, and you being an athlete, you know. But can we maybe back up a little bit, and can you define ALS for us? Give us more of a description of it.
ALS is a neurological disease that affects your ability of your brain to talk to your muscles, and over time the nerves die and can't communicate, so the muscles atrophy, and it's usually fatal within 2 to 5 years on average.
Yeah, I don't think I knew that. So it's because of the communication gap that everything starts shifting.
Mm-hmm. And so that's why there's muscle wasting and atrophy, and then especially the lungs and the breathing are muscles. So.
Right. And your experience, you don't have any family history or any connection, or you never really saw this even as a possibility, right?
No, 90% of people diagnosed with ALS are what we call sporadic, so they have no family history.
90%? Oh my goodness, I didn't know it was like that, wow. So it's just out of the blue in many ways.
Yeah.
Okay, so how long have you two been together?
Okay, together, we've been together since February of 2002.
So 17 years.
Yeah.
17 years, okay.
Yeah.
So, and then how long after you started to be together did you get married?
We got married seven years later.
Okay, just took your time getting there.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, he was a freshman in college.
Oh yeah.
When we got together, I was younger than her in college, and then she wanted to take this job, and then wanted to go to this school, and I wanted to go to another school. So we let life kind of take us different directions while still remaining together.
Okay, got it. So you got married.
Yeah.
Blissfully in love.
Mm-hmm.
And then when do you start seeing what you now know were symptoms?
I started doing triathlons in 2011 and worked up to a half Ironman in 2013.
2013.
And when I look back on that year, I can see some of the early symptoms, like my pinky finger wouldn't extend when I would swim, and I had trouble putting on my wetsuit and my gloves, and I was spiking and running, and but everything seemed to be getting slower.
Mm-hmm. When you say you had trouble putting on your wetsuit, like what does that mean?
I had trouble gripping it and really having the strength to pull it up. And in spin class, I was working as hard as I could, but I was turning my legs over slower on the bike, and even in the race, I had to walk the downhills because I felt like I was tripping over my toes. But I thought it was a race injury. I never done a 70.3 mile race before,
right.
And I just thought it was like training alone.
Yeah. So when they had ruled out ALS and you're going down the path of a different thing, what did they think that was?
So there were several. They thought it was stiff person syndrome, where your muscles freeze all at once and you like fall over.
What's that called?
Stiff person syndrome.
Stiff person syndrome.
It's essentially a really rare condition where your muscles just tense up and you become a board and you can't move and
like
flex
permanent
your muscles for like short stretches of time.
Yeah.
And then and then it releases. Okay. So they thought it was that.
they thought it was spinocerebellar ataxia for a while.
What's that?
It's a rare neurological disorder.
Yeah, that looks more like Parkinson's, I would say.
Yeah.
Okay.
But it's different from ALS. It's not terminal. It's you can live the same length of a life, but the physical manifestations of it look a lot like Parkinson's do in terms of shaking limbs and things like that.
So the reason they sent me to Johns Hopkins was a specialist in something called primary lateral sclerosis. It's like ALS, but it only involves your upper motor neurons. So you think a thought, and the thought interacts with your spinal cord, which fires the right muscles to move your arm. So they thought it might be just the upper motor neuron. The way I was presenting.
Come on, Bailey. Come on. Go on. We're just going to have one more person in the interview. A little furry person.
The way.
Carry on.
So my speech has slowed down at that point.
This is 2013, 14?
Just 2014.
Yeah, all of these different diagnoses were coming in between January and May of 2014. We
Okay.
were seeing these different specialists.
So, finally more symptoms were emerging.
Yeah.
So they were able to more narrow it down.
Right.
So I just noticed it so early, being an athlete. So I was diagnosed with probable ALS in May 2014. And you think probable anything, like probable rain, it's a chance that it won't rain.
Right.
So we thought it was, a chance that it wasn't ALS.
Right.
That is actually a clinical term, which means it hasn't presented in enough places in your body to be definite ALS.
Yeah.
So in August is when I got my official diagnosis.
Yeah.
And that was in the middle of the Ice Bucket Challenge, which was an incredible time of hope. But it was terrifying because I was seeing all these videos of people who were paralyzed on ventilators and multiple machines, and knowing that it only took 2 to 5 years for them to get there.
Right.
It was shocking.
Yeah.
It was this juxtaposition that Andrea referred to of worldwide, if you talk to people in the industry, it was a time of hope. But
Right.
that is not the word that I would use to describe what we were going through at that time. If people were saying to us, if there was ever a time to get diagnosed, it's now, because all this money is coming in and all these things are happening. That doesn't make it easier.
No.
That doesn't make it easier to look at YouTube videos of people as they progress. That doesn't make anything about this disease easier. So adjusting to this disease as someone who has it, or as a caregiver, or as a loved one of someone who has it, is hard anytime. And as great as the Ice Bucket Challenge was, it certainly didn't make it any easier.
Yeah, I saw this quote that said, everybody says it's not a sprint, it's a marathon, you can do it. And what they're forgetting is, I hate running.
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't matter. I hate running.
Yeah.
Which obviously is the opposite of you. But in terms of all this hope coming up and all this money coming up, there was this feeling at the time, like I did the ice bucket challenge twice. Like there was this, especially with Chris Rosati and all that sort of stuff, like our mutual friend. There was this feeling of, okay, good. There's no way they take all that money and they don't do something right away with it. Because how much was raised? Do you remember?
220 million globally and 110 in the U.S.
Okay, so all that money, and it just felt like, what? Like what happened next with it all and the research?
Now the research is really taking off, but it really took 2+ years for the money to be directed to various projects. The ALS Association still has a lot of that money in their bank.
That has to feel kind of infuriating. You're sitting here living with it, and this money's just being held.
We raised money for the ALS Therapy Development Institute in Cambridge, Massachusetts. It is a nonprofit biotech lab that was started by families with ALS, and they turn their profits back into the lab. And so they received $4 million and spent it immediately. So.
Yeah, without knowing all the details, it seems like the more responsible way to do it. Like, let's get this into action right away.
Yeah, well, and it's yielded results. They are the first nonprofit biotech to have a product that's in clinical trials right now. They're in phase 1 trials with a great candidate according to their lab.
Okay.
So.
You had written this essay you guys had put together about your marriage. Can you share a little bit about that? The Austin thing? I'm calling it an essay, but yeah.
So I am celebrating. We went to Austin last month for a marathon, and then on the way back, Utah.
She just wants me to tell to see if I get angry again. On the way back, Andrea uses when we get to airports, she uses the wheelchairs that they provide to people who need assistance, but Andrea also has a folding walker that she uses to get on the plane.
Okay.
And this folding walker helps her get down the aisle. It helps her get to the bathroom when she's on the plane. On every other flight with every other airline, since she's been diagnosed, this has not been an issue.
Right.
We get to the gate, and the gate agent informs us that the folding walker will not be coming on the plane. I became perturbed, shall we say, and I informed him that it would be coming on the plane and that I appreciated his position. I was very polite the whole time. Wasn't I, Andrea?
I was very polite.
Very polite.
The whole time.
Eventually, as we get down to the plane, we find out that the gate agent has called the flight attendants, who are also now telling us that this device that she needs to get on the plane, that fits on the plane, that she has always used on the plane, cannot come on the plane. And
Because it has
yeah, so as we are getting on the plane with it, they say, "I'm sorry, sir, now that it's been tagged, there is absolutely nothing we can do. It needs to go under the plane because it has a tag on it." Which presumably means that if I put a tag on myself,
you'd have to go underneath.
And they were probably planning on doing that at that point because they wanted to get me out of there. So I said, okay. I looked at Andrea's walker and I tore the tag off the walker and I said, "There's no more tag on it. We're coming on the plane now."
Problem solved.
So
and I was like, not sure whether to swoon or that he was about to be arrested.
Yeah. She was worried something might be going on my record. But anyway, so we get on the plane. The gate agent comes down, presumably because someone else has told him what the real regulations are, and apologized and said, I don't want you to write a letter. I don't want to get in trouble. And I said, thank you, and I want nothing more to do with you, essentially. Yeah. He didn't say that to Andrea, and Andrea went ahead and wrote a very eloquent blog post describing the whole thing. I will say, to Americans' credit, they heard about it, their customer service department heard about it, reached out to us, reached out to Andrea, apologized again, and told us that it would be addressed. So to their credit, as soon as they became aware of Andrea's post, they did take care of it, as you would expect and as they should. But you would hope that someone in that position wouldn't be taken advantage of by someone who doesn't understand how to accommodate.
Right. Which kind of brings you back to the importance of advocacy, in situations like that. Do you find that there's probably been a combination of people really caring and reaching out and wanting to do whatever they can to make this less difficult, and this also lack of empathy that's kind of jarring? Would you say that that's the case?
Yeah, most people are very helpful, and even if they're helpful in ways that I don't need, helping anyway.
Like too much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There are, again, it's with all things. It's dispersed between people who are over helpful. They are practically trying to wrap her in bubble wrap as she tries to walk down the stairs, or move from one room to another in a room. There are people who vastly underhelp, who look at her and say, "What the hell's wrong with you?" And then there are a lot of really great people who are right in the middle, understand that she needs them when she needs them, and they know how to help.
Yeah.
You're going to find people in every walk of life when it comes to those kinds of things who fit one of those three categories, and we've been lucky to find a lot of people who fit in that second category.
Yeah.
So tell us about this race. It's 6th year of this race.
Well, we started out with a heart for disabled vets and wanting to just raise awareness. Jeannie's dad was a Korean war vet, and we wanted to do a community event at SOLA, and for the first 5 years that's what we did, and had 200, 300, 400 people that would run.
Oh, a big
and
turnout.
it turned out great. It started with a small amount and got much larger, and we raised a little money for a group called Hope for the Warriors in Eastern North Carolina, and that worked good, and then in September, of course, we had some new news. And that was Jeannie was diagnosed with ALS, and that began to change lots of things, and the race was one of those.
And then so the diagnosis, this was just last September, you said?
Yeah.
This past September. Okay. And had you known much about ALS before?
I had not read much. The Instagram of the Ice Bucket Challenge hit years ago. Well, what's his name? The Stephen Hawking.
Yeah.
was my
Stephen Hawking,
stream of knowledge.
Yeah, and seeing pictures of people.
But outside of that, that's all I knew.
Right.
Yeah,
And then so obviously life completely changes
it has.
Yeah.
in many different ways, and being able to redirect kind of the fundraising, obviously probably a very small part of how life changed, but that was something that feels maybe a little empowering at least.
Yeah. I think so. It made sense. Someone in the running community mentioned Andrea and David, and so we began to figure out who they were. We looked on Facebook and found out their story, and it made sense to give them a call, and I met them right here at this table, and we sat down and talked and heard her story, and so it was easy to figure out how to designate money through them, and together we're figuring out what that looks like as to who is going to benefit from it.
Got it. And you say you reached out obviously to them, but have you had an opportunity to kind of meet new people in the community, in the ALS community, if you want to, whatever
Yeah,
you would call that,
we
right?
have.
Yeah.
We have. Yeah, more initially, more myself and my children. We've gone and visited different folks. It's been harder for Jeannie. It's hard when you get diagnosed to look down the road to someone who's 3 or 4. Even Andrea was difficult for Jeannie to meet just because she's further along. Her voice is changing and all that. And so for us as caregivers, we wanted to meet as many folks as we could to say, what's this going to look like? How do we need to prepare? And so we have come to find out that a lot of people don't know other folks with ALS, that it's scary, yeah, to go and see what perhaps you're going to become. Our hope is in God, so we want to share our faith with people in a way that says, you know, this is devastating for us. It's been hard, but there is a joy that transcends ALS, a joy in God, and we know that He's sovereign in all things, and this is something He's given us, and we have a coffee shop now to live it through and encourage people with, and so we're excited for that in a tempered way, and because there is a kind of a progression of how you accept ALS.
Thanks for joining us.